Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about God's kingdom. It grows, doesn't it? And it continues to grow. So today, that's what our story's about, is God's kingdom and how we can help it grow. God's kingdom, Luke chapter 13, verses 18 to 21. Jesus asked, "What is God's kingdom like? What can I compare God's kingdom to?" God's kingdom is like a tiny mustard seed. And if you've ever seen one, it's just like the tip of a pencil. A mustard seed is very, very small. That someone planted in the garden. The mustard seed grew and grew and grew and became a tree. It got so big that birds nested in its trees and were able to live in it. This all started, that tree that birds could live in and put nests in, just the size of a pencil, that little tiny seed grew into that big tree. That's pretty amazing, isn't it? And I don't think that tree could do it without God's love, could it? Nope. God's love is the base of everything. And then Jesus continues. Actually, let's show the picture of the tree first. Do you see the tree there? There's birds and there's a nest in there. And it's huge, isn't it? It gets to be really, really big, and it goes, those birds, there's actually even a squirrel in there. Can you see the squirrel? The squirrel's living in the tree. So now Jesus continues his story and says, God's kingdom is like yeast that a woman hid in lots of flour. The yeast made all the flour grow into enough raised dough to feed many, many people. Didn't it? Do you remember the story with Jesus feeding the people with loaves of bread and fish? It fed everyone, didn't it? And you didn't have very many loaves. Well, when you make bread, you know, here's a bun. This is a good sized bun, isn't it? But it starts with a little ball of dough that somebody mixed yeast in the flour with some water and some oil, and you put it in a pan and it grows. And then you put it in the oven and it grows again. So you have more to share, don't you, with people? The same thing happens with a seed, doesn't it? You know, you plant the seed in the ground, and if you've seen them, they're very tiny. They're just little tiny things. You can hold them hundreds sometimes, even in the palm of your hand. And you plant those in the garden, and they get bigger, don't they? And I don't know, you know, I look at that handful of seeds sometimes and wonder, how does that tomato plant or that big pickle vine or zucchini vine or even the pumpkin vine come from that little tiny seed that I'm holding in my hand? You know, that's what God does for us, doesn't he? And when he grows those seeds and they grow into these big plants, and then we get to pick the fruit and the veggies, and it feeds us, doesn't it? And honestly, those are the healthiest things we can eat. And you know, that's probably why they come from the soil, and God uses his love to, you know, raise those plants up and give us food. He provides for us, doesn't he? So what about if you think about God's love for you? He loves you, doesn't he? And then you love him back, right? So then think about loving 10 people. Your mom, your dad, your grandparents, maybe some siblings, maybe some friends. So 10 people. And then those 10 people love even just 3 people each. It turns into 30, doesn't it? And those, if they love just 3 people, it turns into 90 and keeps multiplying out. That's how God's kingdom grows, is when, you know, you love people. And it's not based on how they behave or how they act or what they look like or how much money they have even. It doesn't. That doesn't matter at all. It's love from here. It's unconditional love, loving them because you know they're a child of God too, aren't they? So let's pull out our Sunday school journals. Today, I am thankful for fruits and veggies that we grow in our gardens. I'm sure I've already shared. I've got a large pot I don't know if you can see, a large pot that I planted with just a small handful of seeds last October, and I'm still eating hands full of lettuce out of it each and every day. So I get to eat live food even in the middle of winter, right? Cutting it right out of my pot. And I'm like, I just look up and I thank God, because honestly, in the winter, I've never been able to do that before. And I don't believe that pot could grow that lettuce without his help. So I thank God every day for giving us that food. The ability to make bread. I don't know how many of you have made bread at home, but you know, I put my earbuds in and I put some Christian music in, and I mix up my dough with my flour and my yeast and my warm water and some salt and sometimes a little bit of sugar, and you put it in a bowl. After you've kneaded it, you know, and worked it, you put it in a bowl and you put it on the stove where it's nice and warm, and it starts to grow. And so even after it gets so big, sometimes you have to punch it back down and put it back in the bowl and make it a little bit smaller. And then you put it in your loaf pans and you let it raise big again. And you know what? It feels really good, and your house smells wonderful when you make bread, and you can share it with people. It's a wonderful thing to show people how much you love them. Another thing I'm thankful for, and we already talked about it, is God's love. God's love for me, and God giving me the ability to love other people, irregardless of how they treat me or act, because I do know God created them, and I can love them anyway, can't I? And you can too. And that is how you spread God's kingdom, because God's not asking us to earn it, is he? We do good things and help people because we want to, because we know he loves us and we want to spread his love. It's not because we feel like we have to, because trust me, no matter how hard we worked in our life, we'd never be good enough, would we? Nobody's perfect. So, you know, just do what you can to love people and let them know how much they're loved. Because I don't know if you've ever felt lonely and by your, you know, like nobody cares right now, and, you know, tears, and you're in your room and shut the door and you're just mad at the world. There's others like that too. And sometimes just letting them know that they're loved makes a difference in their day, and maybe they're not so sad anymore. Prayers. Let's fold our hands and ask God that his kingdom continues to grow through us, that God guides us with who to touch and what we can do, whether it's opening a door, sending a card, or making a phone call, whatever he asks of us, that we listen and pay attention and do as he asks. And 2, that he gives us the faith to believe that we can help his love, his kingdom grow, the faith in ourselves, and knowing we're a child of God, and you know what? That's pretty awesome and pretty special, isn't it? So pray for faith and that your heart, that you know God has you, even irregardless of what's going on in your life, in the good times and the bad times. And God, I ask that each one of us looks for ways to help others. You know, looks for the person having a hard time carrying their groceries at the store, or looks for the kid in your class that is sad that day and might need a kind word or a smile or just an ear to listen, you know. And so just keeping your eyes open and looking for those opportunities. Now there's many things. Actually, if we were all here in Sunday school, I would ask that we plant seeds in cups and see what happens when they grow, so we can watch and see what kind of fruits and vegetables grow from them. But since we can't do that right now, can we? I want you to draw on the bottom of your Sunday school journal. I made a tree, and if you see, there's a little acorn there. And so that's how that tree started. It was just an acorn that a squirrel probably buried in the ground to save to eat later, but forgot it was there. So the tree grew up and it became huge, didn't it? So squirrels and birds and all kinds of things can live in that tree. Again, that's how I see the kingdom of heaven. How do you see the kingdom of heaven? Draw a picture of what you think it, would be like, how it grows and how huge it is. And knowing that all of us exist within God's love. That's a pretty big deal, isn't it? So I hope you guys are all doing well. I hope you're all healthy, and I hope you're enjoying the snow, but right now it's a little cold to play outside, I think, so we'll have to wait till it warms up. But I hope you guys have a wonderful week. I've missed you, and I can't wait till we can get together again. So let's close. I ask God to watch over, please, each and every one of you. God bless you. God be with you. And have a wonderful week. Amen. Bye, everyone. Love you. See you next